Welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast, where business leaders come to share their advice and journeys to success with existing and emerging leaders of America. Now, here's your host, Dylan Bloyd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast. Today, I'm joined by Doug C. Brown, a sales revenue and profit growth expert whose work has generated over $960 million in sales for companies ranging from billion-dollar brands like Procter Gamble and CVS to fast-growing entrepreneurs. He's the CEO of CEO Sales Strategies, creator of the Double Your Sales methodology, and the author of the international bestseller Win-Win Selling. Doug's journey began at just 3 years old, sweeping floors for 25 cents in his family's business, and it's taken him all the way to advising some of the biggest names in the world, leading game-changing sales teams, and now building innovative tools like Vibitno to help companies convert more sales at higher price points. In this episode, we'll talk about the timeless lessons from his early start in business, how he's helping companies tap into the strategies of the 1% of sales performers, and what it really takes to succeed in sales. Doug, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dylan, thanks for having me. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get this going. So, Doug, like I mentioned in the intro, you began building business since you were 3 years old. Looking back, what lessons from sweeping floors for 25 cents is still apply to the work you do today?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
No one's ever asked me that about sweeping floors. Well, so here's the thing. My dad had an industrial machinery repair company, so it got dirty in that place, right?
Yeah.
And I think sweeping floors actually taught me that you complete a job to its fullest, right? It's because, you always sweep the floor and then be a little pile of dirt, like, oh, I missed that. And then you go over
Yeah.
there and be a little pile of dirt, I missed that. So, it taught, I think, the discipline of paying attention. It's a very interesting question. I never thought about it that way, but it's the discipline of, paying attention to the details.
Right.
It's about optimizing your workflow, because if you figure out how to sweep in angles, if you will, then you can pile up the dirt quicker and get, rid of it quicker. I guess, and I think in general, it just taught me the ability to really, doesn't matter whether I was doing blue collar work or white collar work, right? It was really all the same. We're solving a problem for people. Nobody slips on the floor and gets hurt.
Right.
Where I gained my goal of getting paid at the end of the week, or getting paid, all these things. So I think it really, as I'm thinking back through it, because this is a fascinating question to me, I never realized that there were some lessons being taught in that process.
Right.
And I think when we look back on anything, we can find lessons in that process. So yeah, that's what I know right now. I'm going to ponder on that one deeper. I might write that in my newsletter, actually. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. When I was doing my research on you, amazing that you started at such a young age, but you've worked with some big names like Intuit, CBS, and Procter Gamble. What's one of the surprising truths about selling that applies just as much to those billion-dollar companies as it does to small businesses?
Yeah, they screw up as much as a small business does.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less, but it's interesting. There's something called the ideal right fit buyer profile, right? And it's really about how do you tap into the apex decision maker, how your messaging is clear, and how it makes sales just so much easier.
Right.
And a lot of businesses don't have it dialed in. A lot of people selling don't have it dialed in. I didn't know it was this high, but I went, I'm kind of an optimization, geek, if you will.
Right.
So I was looking for data points, and Harvard, Wharton School of Business, so Harvard School of Business, Wharton School of Business, and some notable companies. I believe HubSpot was in there, Marketo, and a couple others, all did research on the ideal right fit buyer. And they concluded unanimously that 97% of people selling in part or in full do not understand their ideal right fit buyer.
Wow. 97.
I knew it was high because of all the businesses I've worked with, but that's super high, right?
That's crazy.
that's like walking into, I don't know, you're looking for a date and you walk up to someone and you have no idea, you give it a line and the line doesn't even resonate, right? It's
Yeah.
like get lost, loser,
Right.
but the big companies mess that up too. I mean, you can see that in history, the new Coke.
Right.
Duh. You
Yeah.
might want to have asked your audience before you did something like that, right?
Exactly.
When I worked with Intuit, they were losing money on $100 million division. It was due to ideal right fit buyer mismatch with messaging.
Mm.
So
Wow.
we got them from a $10 million loss to a $7 million gain in a year.
You're right.
The big difference is between small and large on sales is when the big companies screw up, they usually have the money to actually recover. And the
Okay.
smaller companies, they don't have the cushion that the bigger companies have. But mistakes are made on all levels. That's what I definitely know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's give and take on both of that, right? Because when the big companies screw up, it's more publicized than those small
Oh
businesses as
yeah.
well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't want to be that CEO of Cole that was at the Coldplay concert, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I
What
would.
are you thinking? That type of thing, right?
You're
So,
right. Yeah.
but if the CEO of the local plumbing company was on there,
Yeah.
somebody knows about it locally, maybe,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be this big media fest that it is right now.
No, exactly. Yeah, that took off, man. I could not believe it. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy. But then the storylines and how much it blew up, I mean, just unbelievable.
Well, people love to, what was the song, Dirty Laundry by one of the Eagles members, Don Henley wrote it.
Yes.
You know, um, that's people, it's an unfortunate thing, but people love to jump on the bandwagon of things like that. And frankly, we don't know what their personal relationships were like with their other folks. I mean,
Yes.
but people, start to rush to make judgment, which is a really bad thing to do in selling, by the way,
Yes.
folks.
Yes.
But it's just done.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that position. I
No,
wouldn't be because I wouldn't do that. But
exactly.
no matter what happened, if my relationship was terrible, I'd get rid of the first one before I'd go try that one with
Yeah.
my HR person, I believe it was.
It was, yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I wouldn't be there either, but it's like with cameras and recording all going on at all moments of our life, it feels like you can
Yeah.
just say the wrong thing at the wrong time and it can be edited to a point where it can just take off, and so you do got to be careful, especially on that stage.
Oh, happens all the time. Check
Yeah,
out I don't know, Fox News, right? To help
right.
check out whatever, right? So
Yes.
it happens all the time. And, even, people could take snippets out of this podcast and
Yes.
twist it, right? It's one of those things that, I don't worry about those things, quite frankly, Dylan, because, even if I'm important enough, I don't feel I don't care, right? I'm
Yeah.
not that important, but I've watched history through a long period of time now. One of the advantages of getting a little older is you look back on the things when you were younger and you say, why did I put time and energy into that? Like it made
Right.
no sense. Why did I try to hold on to this? Why did I do this? You know, uh, what could I've done differently now? Right. And so what do I do differently now? And that's, even in selling, I now am I always qualified opportunities pretty well, but now it's like if I even sniff out that this isn't the right relationship, I'll disengage. And I do that for the benefit of both of us, the person who might be buying and for me,
Right.
because if it's not win-win, to me it's no win. And
Right.
so, why play on that path otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've learned from your lessons, right? And you learn from your mistakes. So it's just being able to
Oh,
recognize that a little bit quicker, right?
come on, Dylan. I've never made mistakes or errors in selling, $1 billion. I think we're close to a billion at this point. I added it up the other day. It was over 980 million at this
It's
point. So,
unreal.
um, but yeah, I mean, you make mistakes. I mean, that's
Hmm.
just part of the thing. What I try to teach people is, this sounds self-serving, but if you want to learn what I know, search me out and figure it out with me, because
Yeah.
I can now cut the learning curve by whatever X, put in there.
Yes.
I don't like 10X, just so you know, but well, I figured if a person can bench press 100 pounds and you try to throw 1,000 pounds on the bench and you want that person to bench that, even if it's 2 months later, they're not high probability that, they're going to drop that bar on them, not on the, I don't even think who was it, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't think he ever benched 1,000 pounds,
No, I
so
don't think so. Yeah.
now I am I do like the concepts of leverage and the construct of leverage and, but I think, 10X is more of a marketing, pitchy ploy type thing. Within great in concept, but
Right.
very, to me, undoable in real life application.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it looks good, right? Compared to like a 7X, or 8X. So it's that 10X looks good.
Well, and the thing is if you grow a company 10X fold,
Yes.
and it's not set up operationally, it's not set up to handle the growth, it could implode.
Right.
There are companies who have grown mega fat, like, Zoom. We're on Zoom,
Yes.
during the pandemic, bam, that thing exploded, right? But then, I remember reading, I believe, don't sue me, Zoom, but if I'm incorrect, I'll publicly state it. But I think there were some bandwidth considerations and getting the right, amount of bandwidth to handle it. And all that makes sense.
It
I mean,
does.
that's,
Yeah.
it's, if we can run 10 miles, it's going to be hard to run 100, And so with that same concept, you can in time run 100 miles, but, I mean, I've literally been involved in growing companies that have been in hyper growth. One, we went from 68 million to 362 million in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a full head of hair back then. You know what I mean? And now I barely have two strands. And so, that was stressful. It was super stressful. And so it really depends on the truthful outcome that people are looking for in life. And then building around, like if somebody really wants to grow their sales, start with a truthful outcome. And then we can figure out the plan and work back mathematically, metrics wise.
No, I agree with you absolutely 100%. But speaking of high percentages and companies increasing, your work with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes produced some jaw-dropping results, increasing sales by over 800% in 6 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had one product set actually increased by 4,152%.
That's unreal. So what was the core breakthrough that made that possible?
Lots of drugs. I went out into the desert by where you live, and I took peyote buttons.
Yeah.
And, I've actually never tried peyote buttons. Here's the thing. Like, back when I was 3, I worked for my dad. I was in his business until I was 18 and a half. I went into the military. Because, if you were my family, that's pretty much what you did.
Got it.
And all along the pathway, I was optimizing his business. I would look at, man, we get taxed on the end of the year on all this inventory that we have. So how do we get less inventory at the end of the year, right? And I would figure these things out. I don't know. I'm just a weird kid, you know what I mean? Like, while my friends are out, running around dating or whatever, I'm trying to figure out how to build the next division or business and these type of things.
Yeah.
I did have a girlfriend, but the point being is, I was a little more quirky, I think, in that regard. But I think that served me extremely well and all my clients and people I worked with. So when I started as a coach with Chet Holmes organization, because I helped the guy. His name still is, but he's no longer with us. J. Conrad Levinson, a company called Guerrilla Marketing.
Okay.
And Jay introduced me to Chet, and I asked Chet, "Hey, I'm kind of doing this thing part-time on my own, like for free. I'm coaching people. People tell me I'm good at it. I feel like I like to get paid on it. So, can I come coach people for your company?" And, and he said, "Sure, we'll split 50-50. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And then in my 4th month, I was selling $65,000 a month in coaching for him.
Wow.
And he was like, what are you doing? Is this legal?
Yeah.
Like, because it's, his average coach might be doing 10 or 15,000,
Yeah.
And so what I realized is I was just applying all these skills I learned through the years on how to communicate with people and apply that to business coaching and the principles of optimizing a business.
Right.
So Chet one day came to me and he said, hey, why don't you take a look at, one of my divisions? And it was the presenters division. And I said, sure. And then I did a first call, did my presentation, and the head of the division called me. He goes, I thought I was in trouble, Dylan, because I literally got off like a call like this and my phone rang within 10 seconds.
Wow.
And he goes, Doug Brown, I'm like, what? He goes, oh my God. That's what he said. And I'm like, oh, here it comes. Right.
Yes.
And he's like, you are amazing. You are off the charts. That thing you said at the end of this thing and this, and you did this and you did that and you did, where did you learn this stuff, Doug? Right. Because it wasn't in their script.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Just came to me.
So they're like, can you teach the team? Can you do this and work with them? So I did. And within 4 months, the whole team went from closing from 17.8% to closing at 43.2%.
Wow.
Well, that kind of caught people's attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. Just a little bit.
And at that time, a guy who's, of a large stature and named Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, was looking at the company to get involved with the company. And then so he came in and they had dual products together. And then I said, hey, can I look at this line? And they said, sure. And I did. And they had something called the Sales Mastery System. They were selling. They were selling it for, I think it was $695, and they were selling like 8 of them in a month.
Got it.
I think it was somewhere around there. And so I looked at it and I'm like, something wrong here. This thing's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I combed back through 2 years worth of leads. And I looked at all the people who were buying it and the people who weren't buying it. And I realized that there was one common factor. The ones who were buying it were under $300,000, but the ones who were over $300,000 weren't buying the larger stuff they were asking for, less than 1%.
Wow. Huh.
So then I went and called a bunch of these people and I said, why didn't you buy? And they told me, yeah, I would like some coaching. And I said, well, if we had coaching in there, would you have bought that? And they said, sure. I said, what if it was double the price? They go, yeah, I would have bought. So I did. I revamped that product line, put group coaching in there.
Yeah.
Raised the price to $1,450. In our first month, we sold 108.
Oh my gosh. From 8 to 108.
Yeah. And
wow.
The second month, I don't even remember the exact numbers. These are rough. I think we did 230, 232, then 275, then 325, 388 or so. Then the next month we sold 475.
Oh my gosh.
And it just kept growing up to a place where it was like, I mean, millions and millions and then tens of millions, over time coming in.
Yeah.
And well, that caught the attention of everybody.
Yeah.
So then they're like, hey, why don't you be the president of training?
Oh, yeah.
Sales and training. So I went through the coaching divisions. I went through the sales division. I doubled the close rate on the sales division. I took the average close from $9,000 on a coaching sale to $30,000 on a coaching sale.
Man.
So it just like, I just went through and optimized that whole company. Well, what I didn't know, Dylan.
Yes.
When you do this for a guy like Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, who used to be like the top of the top back at that time.
Yep.
Other people actually took notice. So Deepak Chopra, Brian Tracy, the E-Myth Company, and so on and so on and so on. I started being the invited guest to the party, so to speak.
Got it.
Then I was doing it for all these companies and other companies. And So I made a name for it. And eventually I met a man named Russ Whitney, who invited me to help him build a company, a product within his company. Russ had $1 billion worth of companies. He owned majority share of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a bunch
Okay.
of brands.
Hmm.
Guy is super smart,
Yeah.
like off the charts smart. And so I helped him build some stuff, and we became friends over time. And I learned more from him in 14 months than I did anywhere else on the planet,
Wow.
about building businesses. And he, again, if you want to learn something, find people who know it.
Exactly. People are smarter than you. Yeah.
Yeah. Tony knows,
Yeah.
Tony calls it modeling.
You're right.
And I've just never looked back. It's like I haven't never took a job. I mean, I was an independent with Tony and Chet, but even prior to that, after I left the corporate world, I just kind of kept building on my skill sets. And there was a concept in the Kiyosaki's book, which was, learn to earn, I think it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. Instead of earning, try learning, right? That type of thing.
Yes.
Well, I didn't like that concept. I figured you might as well earn and learn,
Yes.
right? But I would take a little less money to actually get access to people.
Mm.
Like I had the privilege of coaching the president of CBS television.
Wow.
And that's what I said when I started coaching. I'm like,
Yeah.
who am I to the CBS of the television? You know what I mean? Like, this is a big channel, right?
Yes.
But, I learned from him and he learned from me. And
Mm.
so I started realizing that, it didn't matter who I was talking with. We all have deficiencies and we all have strengths. And, no matter where a person is in life, there's an old statement that says, a fool listens to no one and a wise person listens to everyone, but then decides whether the information is sensible
Yeah.
or not.
Decipher through it. Yeah.
And so I've kind of been embracing this, and I still do today.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had lunch with Thomas Doley Jr. He founded a company called Braxton Industries, and Braxton grew to $500 million and now is known as Deloitte.
Got it.
And
Yes.
right. And what
Yeah.
a super nice guy. I mean, he's in his 80s, he's a delight, he's healthy, he's smart. Man, I learned a lot in
Yeah.
sitting down with him in 45 minutes,
I
having a
bet.
cup of coffee. People think on a different level. So I'm just that consumer of that construct. And then, it makes me smarter. Right. So
Right.
then when people ask me questions, I sound smart.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. No, I mean,
So to speak.
obviously your past and history speaks for itself, right? I mean, you were successful in so many different ventures, and I'm really surprised that Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes actually let you leave, especially when you were doing everything that you were doing.
Well, yeah. Well, the unfortunate part is Chet um, had leukemia.
Right, right.
And so Chet passed away.
Like 2011 or something, right?
Yeah, it was, no, it was 20. Wow, I'm getting old. Yeah, it was back. Yeah, it was right around there, actually,
Yeah,
20,
something
2011.
like that. Yeah.
And Chet was an awesome guy. Chet and I used to have spirited debates all the time. Um, you know, um, because he was grateful in one regard of what I was doing, but in the same capacity, Chet had an ego the size of Montana. So it's I remember, having a couple of times where he just got up off the table and said, "That's it," and he walks away.
Right. Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Because I think he respected me because I wouldn't back down and
Hmm.
just but at the same time, I back down if I was, if he had a great point, so to speak.
Right. Right.
Um, but yeah, so when he passed away, unfortunately, the transfer of it went internal to the family, and they really didn't know how to run the company. And then Tony had enough over a period of time, so the company, they brought a new CEO in, and basically the CEO looked at it and said, "Who's making the most money? Let's kill the top 10." And
Always. Why?
I told him, I said to the CEO, I said, "It's not a good idea.
Yeah.
We're running the company. Like, and he goes, I'll take that risk.
Uh,
And I said, you're going to fall 82% within a month
yeah.
if you do what you're doing. And sure as heck, they went from a $27 million company down to 3 million,
My gosh.
and they never recovered.
Yeah.
And so it's sad, you know, because
Right.
there was a good legacy there. Um, you know, and Tony's one of my heroes,
Right.
and Chet is, I mean, no matter what, this is what I've learned, Dylan, no matter at what level somebody gets at, it's life comes back to life.
Yeah.
And people, even if they've had success, sometimes they regret the overwhelming success they got because they gave up things that they realized were most important to them at that time.
Mm.
So, like, I was just watching a documentary on Sylvester Stallone, and he's like sad that he didn't spend more time with his kids.
Gotcha.
You know, I had an interview that I heard with Dave Thomas from Wendy's, and he said building Wendy's was the worst thing he's ever done in his life
Wow.
because he was always working and he never had any home time. And then so by the time he got older and got out of Wendy's, all his grandchildren and everything seemed to have grown up, and he missed all that time. And he's like, yeah, I got the money, I got the boat, you know, but how many times can you go out on a boat, right? I mean,
Exactly.
so I think the key to this whole thing is we want to be able to build our lives, live our lives, not just exist in the building of our lives and then wake up one day and find out, you know, because life goes by fast,
You're right. Yes.
you know, and as you get older, it goes by faster.
Yeah.
You know, I just had 3 classmates in the last 2 months who have passed away.
Mm. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. You know, some of them I really liked, but
Yeah. Right. Right.
but it's just, you know, that's what happens as you get older and time gets compressed. And so as we go through our life's journey, you know, our values shift, things different, all that stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But what I want people to please take out of this long explanation I'm giving them is to value the time they have today, because you don't know if you have 15 minutes from now.
Mm.
You think you do, but you
Right.
don't know, right? And it doesn't matter because sometimes it's out of our control. It just happens, right? And
Mhm.
so why get upset about, you know, your child dropped the spoon off the table and or spilt the milk, or, you know, like, or, you know, maybe you're a little stressed about money, but you can always make more money. You just have to do something about it, right? Like,
Yes.
let's focus on what we can control and, you know, deflate the, you know, shut your phone off every once in a while. You know, I mean, it's like
Mhm.
when I grew up, you didn't have a phone. Well, you did one phone for the whole family,
Yes, exactly.
you know? Um, and I think that, you know, that the stress levels that have been amped up due to this, got to have constant connected communication thing. You know, take a walk in the woods. You know, that's what they're there for.
Hmm.
You know? Now,
Yeah.
if you have bears around, bring bear spray. But, you know, the point being is that what I've learned through life is you can have all the money you want. And, you know, we do quite well,
Hmm.
and you can always make more money.
Right.
Money is one of those, it's a intangible, and it just, you make it, it's gone. You
Yeah.
know, we just had what, Ozzy Osbourne passed away, I think, just
Yep.
recently.
Hmm.
I bet Ozzy would have given up 78% of his fortune to have another 20 years of life.
Yeah. Oh, I'm with you on that. I see a lot of people always talking about what people, when they're on their deathbed, what they're talking mostly about. And, 99% of the time, it's not about how much money they made, and
No,
I see that. I think in the future, what people are going to say is, I wish I would have spent less time on my phone. I wish I would have spent less time on the virtual world and lived more in the now and the real life. Right.
it's a great point. I agree with you. And there's a really, I think it's called the 10 regrets of dying, or the 5 regrets of something like that. A nurse did this in a hospice
Yes.
issue, and I've read those over time, and they're all the same no matter what.
Yeah.
And there's these Centurion videos on YouTube, and
Hmm.
I watch those because the overlapping theme is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I wish I hadn't spent so much time at the office. I wish I had spent more time with loved ones. I wish I had have, taken a chance on myself. I wish I had more confidence. I wish I had stayed in touch with friends more,
Yes.
right? All of these things become much more evident as life shortens its span.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother, sometimes I never understood her. But she did say something to me when I was very young, and she kept repeating it through my whole life, Dylan, which was, it's really sad that energy is wasted on the youth and wisdom is wasted on the old.
Mm.
And I now know what she means, but I
Yeah.
never, when I was growing up, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about,
Right.
lady.
All that wisdom. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I think it's, if anybody gets anything out of this, it's like, it's okay to make money. You should make money. Money's a tool in life. I had a mentor, his name was Richard Minervino. I don't know what he was at his death, what he was worth. When we were talking consistently, he told me he was worth 350 million.
Wow.
And, but he said to me one day, he's like, I live in the same house for the last 32 years. It's a 4-bedroom house. It's 2,300 square feet. He's like, Doug, I could buy a new house. I could quit here and just travel the world forever. I could do that. But he said to me, he goes, son, how many pair of shoes can you wear at one time?
Exactly.
And then he said to me, he goes, if you make one person's life more fulfilled, then you're living a fulfilled life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, I've got 315 people out on the floor working. They all get jobs because of what I've done. And that makes me feel good,
Yes.
So I think, at the end, it's, and this is not about death and dying. I'm talking about the end can be when you're 27 and you're losing your mind and not figuring out your pathway that you really want to go, but one's too afraid to go there because, oh, what if this?
Yes.
It's not the way to live. You just gotta say, what can I control? What can I move forward? Because if you go into business, folks, I promise you, if you grow in a business, there will be moments where you're like, what the heck?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And I've been there numerous times. Was just there recently in one of our businesses.
Yeah.
Where we dropped a couple $100,000 into something and it didn't work.
Mm.
And I'm like, man, I got about a condo over in Portugal or something.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But it happens. And so, I've always feel, and it was told to me early on, that things usually take you 2 to 3 times longer and cost you 2 to 3 times more than you figured to actually get where you want to go in business.
Right.
Not always the truth, but I would say
Close
70, 30.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Nope. Exactly. Doug, I feel like we could have this conversation for hours. I could listen to everything that you have to say and just soak it in. I did want to shift gears a little bit though, because I want to talk about Vibitno, because, it's the new software. So what problem does it solve and why did you create it?
I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
I created it because I lost $125,000 sale.
Really?
Yeah, I went on vacation.
Oh.
And my daughter wasn't feeling well, and we ended up in the hospital during vacation, and she couldn't come home and she couldn't fly. So everybody said, yeah, I'll cover your calls, I'll cover your mail, I'll cover your email. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. 4 days later, I come back, emails full, voicemails full.
Yeah.
My inbox on my snail mail was jammed. And I picked the phone up and, first, voicemail, beep, hey, Doug, it's Andrea. Listen, I'm ready to go. Why don't you come on over and let's wrap this thing up? I'm like, oh, that's a good feeling coming back from vacation.
Yeah.
Next one, hey, Doug, it's Jerry. Similar message. Yeah. Then third one, beep, hey, Doug, it's Jerry. Where are you, man? I've been calling you for 2 days. And then beep, hey, Doug, it's 3 days. My CEO is pressing me to get this deal done. I'm like, Then the fourth one, beep, Doug, oh, Doug, what the heck? Were you alive? Like,
Yes, right.
listen, dude, I love you, but and I hung the phone up and I called Jerry and I said, Jerry, this is what happened. He goes, oh, geez, that's scary.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. And I said, well, listen, you know what? Literally, you're 12 minutes away from me on the drive. I'll be right over. We'll do this up. He goes, dude, I can't.
Mhm.
He said, the CEO told me pull the trigger. And I said, well, where'd you go? And he told me, and I said, when were they involved? He goes, they
Yeah.
cold called me 5 days ago.
Mm, man.
I'm like, Jerry, we've been working on this thing for 3.5 months. He
Yes.
goes, I know. And I wanted you, but you weren't there. And I'm sorry. And he said, come on over. We'll have lunch anyway. So we did.
Yeah.
125 grand. So I called one of my friends and I was, complaining. And
Yeah.
he said, you know what? This happened to me twice just recently.
Wow.
Like, I lost a couple deals because we all get busy, right? I mean, if you get like,
Yes.
50 people you're involved with, it's really hard to remember all the stuff and to get back to people. But follow up is the glue that holds relationships together.
Right.
I have some pretty good names, right? I mean, NASCAR was a good name for me. It took me 2 years. I followed up once a month for 2 years before we actually got to sit in front of one another.
Wow.
And then I realized like people are bad at this. So why don't I solve this problem? It's not that they're bad people. It's just, it's hard,
Yeah, exactly.
So then we were like, well, we got to build something from the user standpoint. How do we make this personalized, meaningful, relevant? How do we make it automated? How do we put the system in place that it basically reaches out and grabs you by the shirt collar and says, call Dylan.
Yeah. Right.
Before it's too late. And so we built it. We call it Vibitno. It's not commercially available. I only make it available to people, on a more of a one-on-one basis at this point.
Wow.
And we offer people if they want a 2-year or a lifetime membership in the process. And if anybody's interested, they can reach out to me at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com or call me 832-549-4836. I'll walk you through the system. And if you want to be one of those people, then great. We do about 100 people a year and that's it.
Wow.
We're so focused on the other businesses, Dylan, like
Yeah.
being in the business of the SaaS business is a whole new business. And I've got to learn,
Yes.
I've helped clients in that business, but I'm not been in that business. So, I know enough about business to know that you have the business of a business, which is money in, money out equals, right?
Yes.
But then there's the industry of the business you're in. Just like if I wanted to be a physician, I would have to go learn how to be a physician. And then when I got out of the school, I'd have to learn how to be a doctor in a hospital setting and all of that. Well, it's the same thing with the SaaS business.
Got it.
So what we're doing is we're building this ultimate tool for people. And it's gone way past its MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got CRM in this. We've got, lead routing coming in. We got all these things. So
Awesome.
essentially, I think I'm building probably something like Salesforce.com on steroids over the next 2 years or whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
And we pretty much use almost 100% of the money we use just right back into development.
Yeah.
So we're listening to our users and we're saying, what do you need? And they say, well, I need this, I need that. And then we're like, okay, how much is this? Okay, yeah, that. All right, we got the money to do that. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the deal with Vibitno right now.
Yeah.
I do have a friend though that has the largest sales mapping software in the world,
Okay.
and he's like, break it out and make it this thing.
I was just going to ask that. Do you ever see yourself doing that?
I do, but not probably for maybe 2 years, to
Okay.
2 years.
Okay.
Because we have an insurance business, primarily in life and health, and we're helping people make, our goal is to help them make a 6-figure income, doing insurance. And we also make money because we're in a brokerage model, right? So we're helping them. And there's, because here's the fun part of getting older, going back to the same conversation. It's about what you can give back.
Yes.
Right. So I'm super sorry if I offend anybody, pissed off at what's going on in the world where people who want to retire today run out of money between 8 and 12 years.
Yeah.
They can't, they got to keep working. I'm not happy that my daughter's friends who are in their 20s, because they're in their 20s, are looking at life apathetically and saying, I don't think I'll ever be able to afford a home of my own.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to be in a corporate job or any type of job where you have a couple of kids and you feel like you've got handcuffs on you, but you know you were built for something more.
Yeah.
But if you leave that job, then things don't go right. Then, your kids don't have
Everything they
clothes and
need.
food
Yeah,
and everything
exactly.
else,
The
right?
essentials.
To stay in that invisible prison for 20 years till the kids grow up and then, so I want to help that group of people. And, our insurance business has amazing support.
Yeah.
Russ Whitney's one of the partners in that.
Oh, awesome.
We have leads, so people don't have to go out and find their own leads.
That's huge.
We have all of the training. You're stuck with me, folks, on that part.
Right.
We train all these people, right? We help them get licensed. We do the whole thing, and then we help them achieve their goal. To me, I'm super stoked about this, right? We call it Agents of Honor.
Okay.
Is the brand name.
Yeah.
On that. So that is a huge focus. And then I have some focuses still within the helping companies, primarily companies 10 million and up, raise their revenues. And then, we have this Vibitno thing, right? And so that's why we're not really focusing so much on the SaaS business at this point.
Got it.
Eventually I might, or even now, if there was the right person, I'd look for a technology partner, somebody who understands how to do that.
Yeah.
Because I've already built the tool.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And people love it. The people who are on it are like, they love it. They're like, it's so easy to use and simple and, and it does what they need. And so
now just be building it to scale, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep building it to. Here's the challenge with a lot of SaaS products that I had found over the years, especially CRMs. They were built by technicians or for upper executive management to manage the organization.
Yeah.
They were never built for the individual user to be more productive, to be more leveraged, to create more time in their life and give them a return on their investment.
Exactly.
So I took the gorilla and flipped it on its head and said, let's do it from this point up.
Right.
Why? I built it for me.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, that's the answer to the question.
No, that's incredible. I cannot wait for people who are listening to take advantage of it because it obviously shows that it's going to help them in so many different ways. But speaking of automation, and AI, what role does human-to-human connection play in sales today, especially with AI and automation becoming more prevalent?
Yeah. Here's the thing about AI. Like we have AI built into Vibitno.
Yes, right.
Right. It takes persona fields and looks at all these fields and then creates the messaging based on all the relevancy of the fields and all this good stuff. Right.
Yeah. Not
to keep shamelessly plugging Vibitno, but that's what it does.
Oh, yeah.
So, I study AI all the time. I'm in some AI groups and we study, what's going on. And please, no one send me another message on ChatGPT 5 versus Gemini. So see, I'm old enough to remember when internet browsers came in, and then there was, Microsoft's versus Google versus Firefox versus Yahoo versus AOL, right? All these things. And people are doing the same thing with AI, right? They're cross-comparing which one's better for this or whatever.
Exactly.
But the one thing that AI, I think, will never, ever, 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 ever do is to have complex communication and decision-making power amongst, I would say, a more than one person sale.
Okay.
I don't think it'll ever get there. I could be wrong. I've predicted things before that, that we're right. Like nobody was gonna, die from Y2K, that type of thing.
Right.
The computers weren't going to stop. The robots weren't going to eat us. And I was right on that one. Right?
Yes.
But I've been wrong on other things. And but my prediction is that AI in the short run it doesn't have the emotional IQ, EQ, if you will, right? It's factual. It can think a little bit like that, but complex human emotions, much more difficult.
Yes.
And I don't think it'll get there in the short run.
Mm.
So, people are trying to decide between multiple factors. They could drop it into AI and it'll give them their explanation or whatever. And you can even have conversations with it, but it's not going to replace what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It will replace basic routine workflows and basic routine tasks. So, if you're an appointment setter today, I would start looking heavily at something else.
Right.
Because you can take 50 appointment setters and put in a few agents and drastically reduce your overhead and get the same output, if not even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So positions like that, I would be concerned about if I was in one of those positions.
Right.
And you could see it even pre-AI, like you go into grocery stores, they're now automated tellers where you walk in and you got to scan your own groceries and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Personally, grocery store folks, I think it's a tragedy and you stink because I think you take away the joy of talking to someone at the counter.
Yes.
Right. Which was probably, in my opinion, the only good thing about grocery shopping.
Yeah.
So I prefer now and there's the next level. You've upset me as a client, so now I'll shop online and I'll have it delivered because what's the point?
Yeah.
And so, you could see that pre workflow, pre-AI workflow. Now you got these things that will track all of my food and make suggestions and this, and hell, you're going to get it right in your refrigerator, right?
Exactly.
It's going to say, you've only got 17 blueberries left. I think it's time to get more blueberries. Yes, I think you're right. Yes, I'll put the order in. Let's order some more stuff, and boom, and then before you know it, a little, van shows up and here's your blueberries and all this
There
other
it
things.
is. Yeah.
I think that if you're in that position and you're in that workflow, other than the truck driver, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. Other than that, I don't ever think it'll be able to do what we're doing, or at least in the short. It's moving fast, but I don't think it's going to get there soon where, it's not going to replace a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's not going to hold hands with you and look you in the eyes and you feel love and emotion, right? Or you feel whatever emotion. It's not, I don't think it'll ever get there. Well, maybe it will, and I'm, wrong, but I don't see. So AI is an amazing tool if we embrace it as a tool for what it is.
Right.
And please don't fear it, folks. It's just another technology. Took 13 years for the ATM to actually catch hold. Today you don't even think about the ATM. You put your thing in there, but years ago they thought well, it's going to eat my money and I'll never get it back, right? So, the internet, oh my gosh, they never thought the television was going to replace the radio.
Yeah.
They never thought the car was going to replace the horse.
Yes.
It's just one of those things. I mean, in fact, I believe in the early days of TV, nobody wanted to even invest in it.
Yeah.
Well, streaming has wiped that completely out.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, look what it did to the movie theaters.
Yep. Yeah.
So to me, that's where AI is all about, Dylan. It's just another technology that's going to change. I mean, when I was a kid, we talked about getting electric cars in play.
Right.
Well, I was ahead of my time, right? Because the oil companies or whoever didn't want them in at that time. And then now, hey, you have a federal credit for an EV car, have this, have that, right? And they're trying to convert them all over. So, and then, scares the heck out of me, self-driving cars.
Oh, I know. It's wild.
Yeah. I don't, I don't know if I ever want to get in one of those other than being in maybe Disney,
Yeah.
because I don't know. I just feel some of my hacker friends are going to get in there and they're
Oh,
going to go, ha ha
I
ha.
think about that as well. Yes, exactly. Uh, Doug, I think that's the exact way people can know that you are in sales, not to go back too far, but it's like that's a prime example of why I know you're the sales guy is because you went to a grocery store to be able to talk to the person who's checking you out. It's so because you got the other half of people who want to go there to avoid that. But
Yeah.
it's I completely agree with you. I'm on your end. I like going there and having that part of the in in it. But speaking of the being a salesman, you've dealt with a lot of rejection, I'm assuming, obviously, well, not assuming, I know for a fact that you have because of all the things that you've done, but you've
Yeah.
literally wrote the book on win-win selling. So
Yes.
can you give the listeners an idea of how they should rethink objections to close more deals?
Yeah. So I didn't write the book Win-Win Selling. That's another guy. But I
Oh,
did
okay.
write the book Win-Win Selling, the resolving objections
Right,
and
right.
the power of profitability, right?
Yes.
So if you want to pick up the book up, folks, you got to put in the objection side, right? Just put
Right,
in
right.
Doug C. Brown. Um, looking back on it, I would have changed the title, but back then I was just like, whatever, I'll put this book out. Because the reason that book went out, Dylan,
Hmm.
was because my wife challenged me. She was my girlfriend at the time, and she's like,
Really?
"Can I read some of your books?" Because I've written like 4 books,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
at that time, and I did, and I said, "Yeah, yeah, read this one, whatever." And she said, "Okay," and then she read the book and she said, "Geez, Doug, this is a really good book."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, thank you." She goes, "Why did you write it?" And I said, "Well, I wanted to help people." And she asked me like 3 or 4 more questions in a row. And then she asked me the one more question. Doug, I have a question. Yes. If you don't release this book, how are people ever going to get the help from it?
Yeah. Mm.
And I realized she was using the formulas in the book
Oh, I love
to
it.
to resolve my objection. And I was like, touche.
Right.
And so we wrote the book and we released it. And, I thought it would help people. And then wham, it went, pretty organically number one in like 4 countries pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's all on the psychology, the philosophy of resolving objections, not crushing them. It's all about how do you handle them in a step-by-step framework in a format. Objections are nothing more than fear
Yeah.
manifesting as an emotion. So it's like, how do you move them from fear to neutral to buying confidence in that process? So if anybody wants the book, it's at winwinsellingbook.com. It'll redirect you probably to Amazon. You can pick the book up. I'm quite proud of the book. I'm actually writing another book right now, which I know my wife now, not my girlfriend.
You're right.
She'll be she's already been hinting at releasing that one as well. Um, and if people want to know a little more about my writing style, they can go to CEO Sales Strategies,
Hmm.
plural on both.com/newsletter. And they can just sign up for the newsletter. We put out really good content on that.
Right. No, amazing. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, for the listeners who want to connect with you, but also learn more about CEO sales strategies and check out your latest work. You gave a little bit of different areas of where they can connect with you, but do you have any other areas that you want people to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, if they just type in Doug C. Brown revenue growth, I'll be everywhere. And
Okay.
by the way, that's by design. It's not
Right,
like,
right.
um, and I my LinkedIn is Doug Brown 123. Um, Doug Brown, Doug C. Brown underscore is Instagram if they want to check that out.
Okay.
Um, but in general, I mean, if they have questions or want to talk, just, shoot me an email, or my cell phone number is 832-549-4836. Please, no spammy texts.
Yes, yes.
But people are at, why do you give your phone number out? Like, why don't you?
Yeah.
What are you worried
Yeah,
about?
you don't want to drive business?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we're on East Coast time in New Hampshire. So,
Perfect.
that's probably enough for them to, figure some stuff out about me. If they want to connect, then just connect, and we're very accessible. I do have 2 people who answer my emails. So if
Mm.
they answer you first, they'll let me know, and then I will answer you.
Perfect. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I will definitely make sure that those are in the show notes, make it a little bit easier on the listeners, and then they can just start searching away and learning more about you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Appreciate that, Dylan.
absolutely. Well, Doug, this has been amazing. I do really appreciate you spending time today with me and the listeners. I do want to ask you one more question before we go, because, for the listeners who want to elevate their sales games, can you give them a few traits they should be focusing on developing and how they can start learning from you and CEO sales strategies?
Okay, so traits and how they can learn.
Yeah, just kind of tie this all together.
Okay, so look, here's the thing. No matter what anybody said, salespeople are not born, they are made.
Mm,
Okay. Top 1%ers are definitely made. So if you want to be in the top 1% of earners in the world, uh, you know, then you've got to get made, not born. Yes, some people have the natural gift to gab, and some
right.
people are a little more speaking, adverse than others, but or pro on it. Um, I was one of those people that never really had, but I was a very shy kid. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? But I
Right.
would speak to people. And fortunately, I would speak to girls and listen to them.
Yeah.
And that was a good thing, right?
Right.
Because I learned that people want to be heard. Women definitely want to be heard, right?
Hmm.
And so, the traits that you're looking for, firstly, you've got to have a desire to want to do it. And I know that kind of goes back to like, what, a desire? But, you know, I just had this conversation with my oldest daughter because, she's in a good space, in a good place, and she's trying to figure out what does she want to do next. And I'm like, if you don't have that, it doesn't have to be this burning desire like, Napoleon Hill. You got to have a burning desire inside you. That helps, but it doesn't have to be. But so if you have the desire to do this, the big thing is you got to have the commitment.
Mm.
Because like you were saying, rejection, when you're learning anything new, and this goes back from when you were just a tiny infant,
Yeah.
You didn't roll over the first time that you tried,
Right.
right?
Right.
I've never seen a baby be able to do that. I mean, I'm sure some of them might have, but and so you just kept trying and trying and trying. And eventually you learn the power of balance, and then you learn the power of momentum, and you figured out how to swing from your back to your belly, right?
Yes.
Learning sales is similar to that. You're going to, learn skills. And the more you can learn these skills and the more you implement them and the more you try and the more you learn, you're never failing. You're just gaining momentum and growing a percentage point here and there every single time you're doing this. Um, you know, the the third thing is you find somebody who's been there, done it, who can teach you it. That's the key.
Mm.
There are a lot of people who have been there, done it. They can't teach it.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you speed up the process. And, it's one thing that, like I do call reviews from time to time for people.
Yeah.
And then I'll just tell them, hey, you missed this, you missed that. You did great here. You did great here. I would reframe this to this. And they do. And the next time, boom, it resonates and it hits, right?
Yeah.
That's only because I've driven the car 357,000 times
Yes.
that I was able to spot it, right? So, and on every level you go, you've got to keep shaping your mind
Hmm.
to allow yourself to grow to the next level. Otherwise, the mind's 60% of this, Dylan.
Yeah.
Like even when I get in the room with like all these multi, successful people,
Hmm.
I'm sitting there going, okay, what am I going to learn today?
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to be talking about things that I'm going to need to go study tonight.
Yeah.
I've never run a $6.8 billion corporation. Now I've helped people coaching them do that, but I've never been in that position of the business at that moment.
Right. Right.
And so there's a different level of conversation that goes on there. I can relate, but I got to learn.
Hmm.
So we're constantly never ending learning. That is the next trait. And the last one and most important is you just never give up.
Mm.
The moment you let yourself beat your brain and say, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know, you give up.
Yeah.
And you just point your nose in that direction you want to go. You keep walking every day and eventually you will get there. And sometimes you get there much longer than you figured it takes. Then terrible grammar. And sometimes you get there much quicker than you figured. but you can speed it up through the process of leverage. And that's why you want to talk to other people.
Right, right. Man, Doug, I love that so much, and anybody who's listening, take it from Doug, who has made it, who has been extremely successful in everything he's been working on and has done. And it shows that he's continuing to learn, then that means you don't know it all, right? I mean, the second you think that you know what everyone, when people think that they know it all and they stop learning, you kind of stagnate, right? So, or maybe if anything, decline. So thank you so much for mentioning that.
You're welcome, Dylan. And I can't take credit for it. I've learned it from other people, like the
Of
people
course.
who are those people that we see on television and, in big positions. They're constantly still, I mean, Tony Robbins, I watched him do it. Russ
Yeah.
Whitney, I watched him do, like, I'll show up on meetings with people and they'll be like, "Hey, did you read that book, The Who, Not the How?" And like
Yeah.
they're voracious about continuing their education, because time changes and things change and technology changes. And what never ever ever will change, I think, is the way humans were. Go back as many hundreds or thousand years that you want
Hmm.
to today. We all want the same thing. We have certain human needs. We want to be needed, loved, significant. We want certainty, as Tony says, uncertainty as well,
Yeah.
right? Variety. There's different traits, and that's not going to change. And AI is never going to replace that.
Right. Yep.
You know?
No, you're absolutely right. Wow, Doug. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. This has been amazing. I really do appreciate you spending time with, me and the listeners today.
Oh, you're so welcome, Dylan. Thanks for having me on. I'm really grateful.